Hey sisters, welcome back to My Sister's Keeper, the podcast where we amplify the voices and stories of women of the global majority. This is a space created to inspire, empower and connect with women who are breaking barriers and defying all odds. Now this is a continuation from part 1 with our guest speaker, forensic accountant, career and DEI coach, Christabel. All right, so next question. As you've dropped so many gems for us already, what strategies do you think then, like specific strategies, have you employed throughout your career journey to help you push through situations like the stereotyping that we've spoken about, microaggressions, workplace biases, particularly, against you as a Black woman in the corporate space, and other labels that might be pushed our way? So what specific strategies would you say that you've used?
Right, so I think the first key one for me is mentorship. So your mentor, ideally, they can be in the same company or maybe in the same team, but it's fine when they're like not in the same team as well, because I feel like it just allows you to have a very objective viewpoint being given to you. But so that would be definitely one of my strategies. And the way I go to the person is I tell them like what the facts are, and then I just basically ask at the end, am I crazy? Like, am I overthinking this? But they give good perspective and they allow you to see. If an honest mentor anyway will allow you to see where you've maybe not done your part, or they'll let you know that this is not right. Like a good mentor anyway. So I think finding a mentor is key. Like I've always made sure that I had somebody, or if I don't have someone, I'm gonna look for them. Like I always have a mentor. How does someone go about finding a mentor then? I think people go about finding yours. People overcomplicate it. There's some people that if I see myself like developing a sort of like I would say relationship with, I will ask to be a mentor. I won't do it on the first day. I'll be honest. I will get to know them a bit, get to know a bit of where they, their bit of their journey, maybe what department they're in, how they got there. You pick a mentor mainly on like maybe their own achievements or things that you can see that you want to emulate, basically. Okay. Right? Because it makes sense to talk to your future self how to get there. Yeah. As opposed to just picking a random person just because. So that's really important. Is pinpointing like what, in a sense, knowing what you want, and then finding someone who emulates that as well. So that's one. Sometimes even picking. So I pick a mix. Like have I had a white male mentor yet? I've had Asian, I've had Black, I've had a white female, I've had everybody, and that is for me is the best thing. I mean, having a Black female mentor is like key because I'm a Black female. So I mean, it only makes sense. But having different perspectives is so fundamental as well. And I've even at some point had multiple mentors, so I was getting different. So I had a Black mentor. I'll speak to them about the Black stuff, the Black issues I had, and then like because I did have genuine issues, and I would definitely speak to him about it. Exactly, they understand. They have an understanding, and then maybe I remember I had a white female mentor. I speak to her more so about my career aspirations, even being a woman. How's it being a mum? I'm not a mum yet, but I mean, I still wanted to know, like, how was she being able to be so successful and have a family at home? May her soul rest in peace. She's obviously since passed away, but having people like that, honestly, like the way that woman had my back, like she really, really wanted me to succeed, and I can see, and it was so authentic. So. I mean, that goes back to that allyship then, in terms of advocacy and having someone who's not necessarily from the same racial background as you, kind of championing you, in the background. Absolutely. And I think once you get a bit deeper than the colour and the physique, and whether you're a woman or man or whatever the case is, humans actually just connect. Once you connect with someone, all of that doesn't even matter anymore. It doesn't. It shouldn't really. It shouldn't. Place a lot of emphasis around it. Yes, but you only have to look at the world also to see why, right? Because the world, I think we tend to think that once we come into work, everything happening in the world doesn't happen anymore, but we're just the world in a box, basically. Right, so all the issues that we see in the world, the current issues and things, understand that it's possible that they leak into the workplace. So sorry, the strategies, right? So mentorship, let me go back to the point. So mentorship is absolutely key for me anyway. and that person does not have to look like you.
Yeah.
They can be anybody, but make sure that you've seen certain things, a relationship, and you see things that you definitely want to emulate. This I probably should have said this first, but self-confidence is so key. Again, you remember when I said that you can't change people's perception of you. Some people have a good perception of you, some people have a bad perception of you. It is what it is. But you confident in your own ability. Because if you're not kept confident, people can tell you something, it will sway, like you'll be like wind, just swaying you left and right, and you won't have any
kind of like grounding.
Effectively. So it's so important to know yourself. That's one thing, right? So if someone comes to me and says, oh, you're like, I don't know, you're an angry black woman, one thing I know for sure is I haven't been angry to anybody at work. And I know that's not even how I conduct myself outside of work. Everyone gets angry. I'm not saying I don't get angry, but
there's just the way that you conduct you when it comes to professionalism.
And that's why self-awareness is so key. If I know I don't do that,
so
your words are just wind for me. Like that's not an accurate assessment of me. That's your stereotype. That's your problem.
Okay.
No, I mean, to some extent it is your problem. It's not my problem.
No one can, because you are self-confident. No one can give you labels that
are not
your label.
It's not accurate.
It's not accurate.
Exactly.
Self-confidence is important.
And another thing is so your question is strategies to kind of like overcome
those biases, microaggressions,
mentorship. I've already said that. Obviously, knowing yourself. I mean, to some extent, I think possibly also being realistic. When I said that the world outside is the world we see inside. So we see a lot of things on the news. We see discrimination every day, like everywhere. So just be realistic that some people are going to have certain views of the world, and they're going to project that on you. Sometimes because they've never even spoken to black people. I can tell when they have not spoken to black people, because some of the things that they say to me, I'm like, okay, that's a bit weird. I don't really expect you to be asking me certain questions,
saying certain things. I guess it's miseducation as well sometimes.
Miseducation.
That they are educated when it comes to even just the concepts of racism and what's allowed to be said, and they say certain things, and you're just like, you said what?
But okay, another strategy I would say, sometimes you have to be able to. You have to pick your battles, but sometimes it's worth educating people as well.
100%.
So there's certain things they might say to you. You can say, please, why did you say that? Or why do you think that's okay? And then you educate them for me, that's not. Honestly, there's a time where I had to tell one girl, I said, like, please don't say that to any other black person. You can say it to me and I'm going to educate you on why you shouldn't say that, but don't say that. Again. Because this is the way it's perceived. And then you kind of like.
So I think a lot of it sometimes does stem down to just not knowing. Because I've had, I don't see colour, and it's just like,
I've heard that.
I know we're different.
And
it's like, again, that's an opportunity to
educate.
Like, I get why you're saying it
exactly,
but,
really, it's not given.
We all see colour.
We do, but then I want you to see my colour. That makes me me.
Exactly.
See, that's a way to even like have that conversation. I was like, I want you to see I'm black and I'm proud. Like, I want you to see my colour. Please do. Like, that's a part of me. So just educating people so they understand what they're saying. Some people obviously say things because they sometimes just don't know any better. I think some people said things to me and I'm like, I can tell you just that you don't know any better. That's where you've been raised in your house. And that's why you're saying those things, but you don't know any better. But now hopefully that you're exposed to people like myself in the world of work, I can hopefully be that touch point that kind of helps change.
How you see or perceive that.
Exactly.
Excellent. Okay. Any more strategies you want to give us? Or?
Okay, I think this is only for the bold ones like me, but sometimes, I won't say reporting it, but besides, I think when it escalates and becomes too much, don't be so, what's the word? Afraid of calling it out to maybe a senior member of team. So many of us, like, as I said before, we're just holding so much trauma, like work trauma in, and the same way childhood trauma follows you into adult life, workplace trauma will follow you into the next job if you're not careful. So it's so important to be able to also speak out. So that could be, for example, to your mentor. It doesn't have to be direct to the person who's doing it. It could be to your mentor, it could be to a manager of that, but like it could be to someone that, you obviously have to decipher who's trustworthy and things like that, and who's actually going to take it seriously. If you need to go to HR, you need to go to HR, but you know, a conversation needs to be had. You must speak out, because otherwise it will just become too much, and it will escalate. Yeah, exactly. So you kind of
don't suffer in silence.
No.
Don't condone what you know is detrimental to your, I guess, psyche and your workplace performance.
Yeah, absolutely. And especially if that person's like blocking your destiny. Sorry, like we have to.
That's the girl.
You got to go. Like, we need to discuss this, and
needs to be had.
No, for real. Yeah. So like, yeah. And time is of essence, so make sure that, you know, once you can see it's actually impacting you, then the quicker you say it, the better. Don't let it kind of drag on for too long. That would be my advice to my younger self, where I think sometimes you're really you're too optimistic that someone's going to change, but you can't control someone's behavior.
The only person you can control is yourself.
Yeah, exactly.
Right, so going back to you saying you had like multiple mentors from different like backgrounds, I've also heard the term of like coaches being used. So yes, you had multiple mentors. Did you ever have a coach particularly as well, or
do you know what?
Just stick with
I stuck with mentoring because I suppose I just didn't know any better. But knowing what I know now about coaching, and you know, like for example, from me also mentoring, I've now turned into, but I've actually decided to do my own coaching as well, right? Career coaching. And if I knew what I knew now, I definitely would have gone to a coach much quicker, because I think, again, they're objective. Hopefully they have their own experience as well. How do I explain it? They have your vested interest, like it's a service, isn't it? So they have your vested interest. They want you to succeed because that makes them look good. Like that makes them look like they know what they're doing in terms of their job. So if I knew what I knew now, I definitely would have got a coach just to kind of like help me maneuver some things. Yeah. And it doesn't have to be, you don't have to have them for 10 years. Like you can literally have a one-to-one chat, like one time, or whether it's like over 3 months, over 6 months.
So would you say a coach is someone who kind of sets out like achievable kind of like targets for you along your career journey, like you said, for maybe a short period of time? Or maybe while you're at a particular, I don't know, a new job, for instance, the first maybe year, just to help you navigate. Whereas the mentors, there's someone who's there kind of like for the long haul. You know, it's more informal, is it, with a mentor? Yeah,
so the difference, I would say, between mentoring and coaching is the coach gives you the tools that you need to succeed. Like they teach you, and almost like that, now they push you and they're like, now you can go. The mentor, I think, is, I see what you mean by in terms of a bit longer term. They help you along the way, but the mentor, that's why I said the mentor has to, you have to want to emulate them, because they're going to show you the ropes of, you know, the way that they came and maybe their mistakes or what they didn't do and things like that. So they kind of hold your hands, but they have to be, that's why it makes sense to have to be somebody that you have the same goal as. But yeah, I would say coach is more so give you the tools, and then now you go and you use that. But the mentor might be there with you a bit,
all through kind of like the journey.
But it depends. You get some mentors that are hands-on, you get some that are not that hands-on, so it just kind of depends the quality you get. But I think it's all, when it comes to mentorship anyway, it depends on your relationship with the person. And
whereas
I think
with a coach, the relationship doesn't necessarily have to be there.
For them to really
kind of
assist you. Exactly.
Okay, so a mentor and a coach then. Right, so what qualities do you believe are essential for us as women from the global majority to thrive in today's workplace? So having, you know, your 12 years corporate experience, you know, being
and counting,
because you are going to continue flying. What is the essential qualities that you think we need to thrive in today's workplace?
I don't know what the opposite of naive is, but whatever that is, that you definitely should
not be naive.
I don't know what the opposite of that is, but you can't be naive. You can't walk into, because I've definitely was naive.
Well, I think we all have, though, because we all have. It's like, okay, I was talking to my brother, and I was saying, you know, I'm a firstborn child, so I was like, I didn't have anyone's like mistakes, particularly like my parents are like, I would say first generation like immigrants in this country. So I was saying, like, you know, they're behind me. So essentially, I said, this talks to my youngest brother. I was like, he's got my other brother and the other one, then me, to kind of look at. So there'll be some things that we would have done that you shouldn't be doing. Like, whereas with myself, it's all like, we all do trial and error, but there was no one for me to kind of...
Yours was like real trial and error.
Legit, real trial and error. So, yeah. What was my question again? What qualities do you think, like, we need, essentially, to thrive? Like, yeah, because it's hard out here.
Do you know what? I really understand where you're coming from, because from the global majority like box, it was not even a box, is it? But most of us don't have people in the world of work before, if that makes sense. So most of us weren't brought into the role because, I don't know, our uncle was in the company or our uncle's friend was in the company. Like, so I understand that. I get it. You're kind of working, you're already possibly a couple of steps back from somebody that has exposure to that kind of network and things, and they know how to navigate in the space a bit more easily. So I get that we start from a disadvantage. But what I said that by don't be naive is, like, once you start learning things, just make sure that you learn quickly. Don't like repeat. If you know, I don't know, like this specific team, they're doing this, and then you're like, you're sitting there kind of like wishful thinking that, maybe I'll just like.
So would you say on that then it's a case of being more inquisitive or assertive?
Be assertive. That would be it then. Be more assertive. You are allowed to make mistakes. This corporate thing isn't like, I haven't got it sussed out. If I would, I'll be selling, like coaching and whatever for free.
We'll be multi-billionaire
exactly by now. I'll be enjoying myself on a beach somewhere right now.
Run for his
exactly money. Right. Yeah. But no one's got it sussed out. So understand that you will make mistakes. You will learn from things, but you have to learn from the mistakes quickly. And that's why I meant by don't be naive. Just learn from it very quickly, and then just kind of go back to the drawing board. I don't know if this answers your question, but have a strategy as to what it is that you really want to achieve from it.
So a clear vision.
Very, very, very clear vision. Saying like, at age 60, this is where I would want to be, and then work yourself like backwards. Like, what do you think that you need to do? Even in just the corporate space, not just all the investments that you want to have and stuff. That's all important. Yeah. That's all important. But where you are now, how does it make sense for where you want to be in the future? Because you don't want to waste time being here and there and just moving, moving with the wind. Like, have a clear strategy on where you want to be, and like kind of work out like how you're going to achieve that in between. Like, anything that you break down, you're able to kind of, it's like breaking down the elephant to eat. Is that what there's a term, there's a word. It's like, if you want to eat an elephant, you got to like break it down. Okay. So all those years into small chunks, and just like digest it as you go along. So that's really, really, really important. So what's your question again?
Set out the vision.
Yes.
Essential qualities for us to thrive.
Yeah.
Set out the vision. We must be very clear on the vision.
Yeah.
What you're trying to achieve, work backwards from that.
Yeah.
So that you can get to where you need to
be. And also have a good set of friends around you. Oh my gosh, I can't tell you how much I know some of my friends.
A good network.
A very good network. And this doesn't need to be like your friends of like 20 years. I've met a few people in the last year, and those people have made such an impact on my life. I can't stress.
It's not just friends, it's the quality of friends that you keep.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
absolutely.
People who are speaking life
into you, yes, that you can come with actual real problems, and they're like, no, can you like make sure that you address this, or can you make sure you do, or they'll follow up and say, have you done this? Like, I really thank God for some of my friends, because they really, you would think that it's their business, like they're really on my neck about certain things,
which is good.
Yeah,
people like that
exactly.
Kind of see you, because you mentioned that earlier. So your friends should see you and your potential,
exactly,
and be there to kind of
push you
to make sure that does not die with you.
Yes, exactly.
You kind of allow yourself to blossom into
the person, the butterfly you're supposed to be. Exactly.
Okay. So I think to answer the question you've said about clarity on vision, be assertive and not naive, making sure you've got good friends around you,
and even mentors as well,
mentors or a coach, whichever one or both that you feel is necessary to have.
Absolutely.
And I know at the beginning we spoke about faith as well, so I think that might be one.
Oh, that's the number one. That's I mean, without a doubt,
God first
with everything, and I think I don't know, there's that. I don't know, maybe it was just me, but I never really used to pray about apart from going on the interview, I'll pray for like the whole week. But then once I get the job, I'm like no one prays about work. It's about, oh, God, take me and bring me back safely. But no one really prays about work. But no, you should absolutely pray about work.
No, you should.
You should absolutely pray about work, because what about if that's one of the ways that God will use you to, whether it's evangelize to people or whether that's your space that God wants you to succeed in, like, you just don't know. So you must pray.
Well, I mean, it's people, isn't it? So whatever we're doing is somehow touching lives, even if we don't know the core purpose.
Absolutely.
Of what we're doing. So whatever space you're in, you're still interacting with people.
Yep.
So it's definitely important to pray, because people also feed into you.
Yep.
And what you don't want being fed into you is negativity. So if you're going into a space, definitely commit that space that you're going into God's hands.
Absolutely. And just even to add to that, you just don't know the kind of spirits that are around you as well. You don't know what altars people have. I know I'm going deep, but you don't know what altars people have that they are using to control that environment. And if you're there too, trust me, it's going to create problems because you're not from that side. So you must pray, like, not only for protection, but for grace, for favor. That's one thing that I always pray for favor in front of your managers and exactly managers, again, because we talk about sponsorship and how I've seen people go from like maybe my level and they have not walked through, they've ran into seniority because
what probably should have taken like approximately maybe 2-3 years. Under 18 months
they've smashed it. And it's only because of someone that they met along the way that sponsored them and took them, and then even the person's even left and they're still flying.
Wow.
So when we praying for favor is essential, praying for protection, praying for wisdom.
God guide our footsteps.
Like wisdom. Oh, I don't know. Maybe that's a personal prayer for me that I'm like really into now. But wisdom, not even to do your work, wisdom how to treat people, wisdom how to speak. Because as I said, you're the light of the world. You actually represent God as well. So there's going to be times people will annoy you, who will say things to you, but then you have to remember unfortunately, you wear the ambassador like badge over you. Like, no, you can't take it off and be like, I want to scream and then put it back on. No, they people will know, or people will be like, oh, okay, maybe that's why she's like that. That's why, they might find out later that you're a Christian, and they'll be like, oh, maybe that's why you're a bit different, or that's why you're a bit calmer, or you know what I mean. So that's all really essential. Like,
amazing.
Yeah, God first, definitely.
God first. Okay, so you spoke about your culture at the beginning.
Yes.
So you are from Ghana.
Yeah.
Okay. So how has your identity and heritage shaped your resilience? Because you come across to me in our conversation so far as someone who's very resilient. So how has your culture shaped that for you?
Well, I mean, I am my culture, innit? Like, whether you like it or not, you do emulate your culture, I think. And so the thing I like about my culture the most is like the women are so hardworking. I'm not saying the men aren't, but the women are like, they have so much pride in working hard and doing a good job. So that's, for me, that kind of allows me to have that spirit of excellence. Like, I really want to do well in my job, not just for anybody else, but for me. Like, so I feel like I've really done my best. So that's really important. And then one thing I've actually stolen from my Nigerian brothers and sisters, I kid you not, is like their confidence is next level. No, it's just next level. When they say like Nigeria doesn't carry last, like they're not lying. I love that. I had to adopt that really quickly. I think being a Ghanaian, I think there's some parts, there's some behaviours that we have where we're really humble, which is essential, because you have to be humble to take on certain opportunities. You can't like be sticky on nose. Oh, I want the best job or wants the best project. No, but that's what you got to balance. I'm just saying, you've got to balance the two. You've got to make sure that you're humble enough to take, because when you steward a smaller project well, like, why wouldn't they give you a bigger project? Like, sometimes it's a test for you, right? And if you're going to work and you're praying about these things, you can't now go and just be like, I want to do what I want to do. No. You have to steward the smaller things and then get the bigger things. I was literally speaking about my colleague today about that particular thing, and like how we see potential in younger people is or like interns that come in is
how they manage small things.
Absolutely.
That might seem quite mundane and
boring and stuff like that. And that we see the way they're diligent. We're like, oh, okay. So the next one we're going to put you on. Yeah. And then you're like self-promoting yourself, if that makes sense. Yeah. So there's that part as well. I love my Ghanaians like that. But the confidence bit, no. Like when I saw how far some of like Nigerians, especially when I was in like investment banking, how far they had gone and where they were. Don't get me wrong, they're still very humble. Let me speak to them. They're not, they don't act like they're above it, and they're just very normal, very authentic. Yeah. But one thing, in front of people, they are confident. They walk tall. Like that's so important as well. Like you have to, as African, you're proud. You have pride, isn't it? Yeah. Okay, you're proud, not pride.
My mum, she's also a retired teacher. Yeah. There used to be this lady at work. Yeah. They're friends now. I mean, her soul rest in peace because she's deceased now. But in school, she used to just always wear heels. Like you'd always hear her come into primary school though. And this woman's always in heels, like really high heels. And she asked, like, does your feet ever hurt you? She said no. Like she'll go to my mum's name, Josephine, and Josephine, you have to let these people know that you are coming and you walk with pride. And her feet would literally be clumping down. You know that when she's coming down there. Yeah. But yeah, you do have to walk with a sense of pride, but also have humility at the same time. Absolutely.
And then just the even the essence of community, because some people, I don't know, like there's different cultures are different. I think the UK is probably not as community eccentric as maybe like my African culture, but having a community I think is quite important, and I see it as like an opportunity to network as well. So I've had other teams, like I think I mentioned before, I'm on a secondment within my company, and the only way I really got on there is because I was already networking and building out my community with other people. Why do I have to just stick to my team? What's that like? There's so many other people within the company. You just don't know. I didn't know this secondment was coming down the way, but then the opportunity presented itself, and like they were like, yeah, we want you to come on board, like. And it was shocking to me because I'm like, you don't even know what kind of work I do. You don't really know, me, but you don't really know the work I do. But they already have faith that I'm going to do a good job because they kind of know my character. So that sense of community is really important. Like it's not only you don't only do it at church. I think people like to go, oh yeah, they keep up with their church brothers and sisters, but the sense of like networking and community is so important as well in the world of work. I forgot to mention that in the strategies. Your network is your net worth, like without a doubt. Like that's so key.
Well, you have to mention friends, so
yeah.
I guess we can put it under that in terms of strategy.
But even further, like when you network, they don't necessarily have to be your best friend.
No, more of an acquaintance.
Yes. Again, because they might be people that will speak of you in different rooms, and that opens up doors for you, opportunities. And you
need that as well.
You definitely do.
People speaking your name.
Yep.
Where you wouldn't necessarily see yourself getting
exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Okay. Right. So I'm going to ask a couple more questions. Trying to decipher which ones I want to ask. Okay, so as a DE&I coach, so that's diversity, equality and inclusion coach in industries where women of the global majority are underrepresented, what do you believe needs to change in the workplaces for it to be more inclusive for us?
Okay, so for me, there's 2 R's that I always speak about, and I don't care if people get bored. Retention, but then also obviously recruitment, but also retention, and the 2 are equally important. I think we sometimes are mistaken that as long as we recruit as many females as possible, that's it. No.
Are we retaining them?
Are we retain them? Otherwise, it will become a revolving door where one in and one out, and then at the end of the day, you'll get net zero. What's the point? Like you wasted your efforts. So so what was your question again? Like what
do you believe needs to change for there to be more inclusion in the workplace?
So the important thing is, as you're recruiting, or if you have the objective as a company to recruit from a specific background, or like let's say more females, for example, you need to change your strategy as well, your recruitment strategy. Where are you picking from? Are you always going to the typical universities to recruit your interns? Of course, if you don't if you keep going to the same places, you're going to get the same
kind of breed of people.
Yeah, basically. So diversify, your recruitment and your approach. That's number one. Number two, like doing things, practical things like what they call it, blind CVs. So not adding people's names, and just having their qualifications in their CVs. Also, maybe changing your entry requirements slightly. Okay. So being a bit more inclusive in your requirement, even the way you write a job description. I literally did a review of a job description for our internships the other time.
What's generic about a JD, and how would that change? Because
sometimes there's words in there that will put people off if you're not careful. So that are non-inclusive words. So if there's some titles, you have to sit down and really literally read through one, but there's some words that will put someone off. So I don't know if you're writing some eloquent words or very difficult technical words that all these interns have no experience of, but some might be exposed to it, some might not be. So the moment some of them see it and they're not exposed to it, they're like, I'm not sure, if that makes sense. Yeah. So it's where you're recruiting, it's the kind of words that you're using also to recruit as well. Or if you're saying, this is for X, Y, and Z people, and that's it, you should. Just came to me, but I've always found it weird, maybe, that now a lot of recruiters on their JD, they will specify and say, we do encourage people from, particularly minority groups, or the global majority groups, or if you have a disability to apply. I think that's so rude. No, because it's like, shouldn't we just be applying anyway? Like, why does it need to be so specific that you need to tell us to apply? But we're not really applying though.
But that's what I'm saying. Like, but why do we need to be?
I think that might be due to some sort of like legislation where they have to be a bit more inclusive, so they're making a point on their JD.
You don't say, please, if you're from like non-global majority backgrounds or if you're Caucasian to apply. So it's just.
No, I get it, but the majority of people at work might actually fit into that first category, so they already have them. They're already the majority. So now they're trying to, I guess, look for ways to increase the other talent pools, and so they have to be specific about
how they
speak to the other
guys. Just always irks me every time I've seen it. I'm just like, but why are you making it?
Unfortunately, it shouldn't be there in the first place. But the question is, there's like, what's the problem? There's clearly an issue for it to even end up on there in the first place.
So then, shouldn't they look internally with their structure rather than placing it on a thing?
They must be doing both. They must be doing everything. So that leads to the retention bit. So you must be making an inclusive environment for these people that you're even calling, right? But I think the issue is that they don't even have them in the house anyway. So I guess that's a way for them to
trying to open the door. Come
basically,
in.
Please, we're calling you. Please come in. Honestly, that's where it is. But again, there is wasted efforts if they let you come in
and they haven't put
in place. Exactly. So making processes and more fairer, for example, like so this is the retention bit, right? So making processes more fairer, like obviously promotion, feedback processes, like, oh my gosh, I can't stress this enough. I think everyone hates that end of year feedback because it's really long and stuff like that, but it's so key. Like,
when you say feedback, you're talking about like performance reviews.
For performance reviews, end of year performance reviews, or mid year, or whatever have you. It's very, very key, because if someone isn't performing, that is the avenue that we should use to communicate with them, right? So through their feedback and things like that. So if your company, you're not really even taking feedback too seriously, how is someone like, you're going to get people that are disappointed because you're not providing them with a sustainable kind of like platform to be able to even communicate to them. So that everyone's just, again, going with the flow, and then you get unhappy people. What a surprise. It's not surprising. If you take your performance review a bit more seriously and you make it like part of the culture, a culture that takes feedback seriously, a culture that makes sure that your processes are fair as well. So it's not just people sitting in the room saying, I want to pick that one because they're my friend, or I went cricket with them, or something like that. But it's more of a fair, like, you actually have fair processes in place, and you have, for example, even when you interview people, having a mixed panel apparently like basically increases the chances of getting the right person.
But the mixed panel can only happen if that culture's there, right?
If the culture's there and if the people are there. So the retention works with the recruitment bit. You must be doing everything, because otherwise there's kind of like no point.
Yeah.
But I think they tend to focus so much on recruitment and not retention, and that's where it really falls short that I've seen. Yeah. But the companies that do it well, they do it well, if that makes sense. Or they try their best. And they're open. You have to be a company also that's open to suggestions. From your own people, yeah. Like who else are you supposed to get customer review from, right? So whether that's your own people, whether you bring in an external consultant to come in and like help you to see what's going on and like what could be done better, that's, you know, if you're willing to develop, that's what you must do, and you must be able to put your money where your mouth is. So you must create budgets that support that, because otherwise it's not important to you, because we throw money at everything else, right? We throw money at the office building, we throw money at salaries, we throw money at. So if you now see diversity, you're expecting people to now take that role. Because I have an interest in diversity, so that's fine. But you can't expect that's a black girl in the team. Oh, you can give it to her. Oh, can you talk to this person so you can sort it out? It's not really my problem. Yeah. I'm not the senior management. I'm not the partner in the. Do you know what I mean? Like they're the people. There's designated people that are paid to be able to govern the people, or they're the people person, right? Outside of HR.
I've heard, or often heard, or I wouldn't say often heard, I've newly heard this term, speaking while female. And for those of you that don't know what it is, it refers to the unique challenges and biases that women often face. So women generally, all women often face when trying to express themselves in public or professional settings, so in the workplace. However, studies and experiences, so statistics do reveal that women, especially from global majority or women of colour, are more likely to be interrupted when spoken to, or when they're speaking rather, ignored or questioned when they speak, compared to their male counterparts or their white female counterparts. So again, almost like, kind of like just, you know, being ignored or shut down pretty immediately. So, and it can lead to them feeling like undervalued or like distressed, and, you know, what we spoke about earlier in terms of like the psychological effects that could have on a person. So my question to you then is, in your career journey, have you ever experienced that term, speaking while female, and how did that make you feel?
That's a great question. Yes, definitely. And I think how do I explain? I think at the time, sometimes when it's being done, you don't really catch sight of what's happening until after, and you're like, oh, actually that's not right. Like I had a point that I was going to make, and that it's been distracted, or whatever the case is. And I've worked with someone before, for example, where he has a habit of basically speaking over me. Wow. So I wouldn't even finish my sentence and he wants to interject. I think it was a meeting and we were speaking about intern interviews or something, and he literally just like spoke. Everyone was like, he's just right in there. And it was one of those meetings where everyone needs to kind of like contribute what they thought about some of the people that they've seen, so we can make a group decision. So in that context, my voice is as important as everyone else. This is not a situation, and most times it is, right? Because you need to be able to express your opinion. That's how you show your leadership. That's how you show your skill set and your kind of like your knowledge. How it made me feel, of course, at the time I was like what? Like I think it went over my head. Like I was like, what's the like issues at my what's the word? Is it my internet? Like what's going on? Why is this guy just jumping in there? But after I got to understand that, this isn't right. One thing I did, it's a bit petty, but I don't care. One thing I did, I think probably after that, when I started realizing that he was speaking over me, when I start speaking and I know that I've started speaking and I'm not being really interrupting anyone, I carry on speaking, because what I tend to do is just stop, because he's now interjects, if that makes sense, and he's talking over me. I carry on. So we're gonna battle, and someone's gonna.
You need to.
I just carried on talking, and he stopped, and I realized it made a difference. I'm not saying everyone go and do that. I'm not saying everyone go and misbehave. I'm just saying that's something that I just did, just even to test to see, is he not hearing me? Is it on purpose? Like what's the scenario here? But I can say that it made me feel away, but I know for a fact that when people act that way towards you, you need to understand it's a reflection of themselves. It's a reflection for the lack of respect they even have for themselves. If you are a well-mannered person, you won't be doing that.
No.
Right, so that's important. And I think sometimes to make yourself feel better, probably having a conversation, maybe it depends. So if that person's your manager or something, just letting them know that you tried to speak and show your opinion, but you felt like they were over empowering, like speaking over you and things like that, and see if that works. And then if that doesn't work, as I said, sometimes you got to speak up, because that can't continue, or find your own little strategy. So just even when they are maybe speaking over you in a meeting, be like, sorry, can I just have a minute to finish my point? Just be assertive and say it. Sometimes that fixes the problem very quickly. I'm just
going back to the strategies of assertiveness.
Yes, that's also one of them.
Did you have a conversation with this said person?
No, I just spoke over him and then he got the message. sometimes people, if they
need to let them know,
they will feel. If they don't hear, they'll feel. They will feel it. And then sometimes I'll just be from that point I was very aware that if I'm ever in the meeting with this person or something, then they might do this. And obviously people will continue to do what you allow. So these kind of things, if you see them, please address them as soon as possible, whether that's can I have a moment to speak, or just let them be aware of what they're doing quickly, because otherwise it will just get worse.
And I think that's quite common with us as women of colour. Like we're so quick to retreat into like
much.
Okay. Like, and just look. And
I do that.
How does one then, especially like those who are just entering the workplace, because it is something that you will face in whatever space you're in, how do you combat that, early on without being rude or tagged as rude or given a label, because people will also quick to jump to a label as well? I think the issue with I would say the more junior, or maybe the new early career employees that are coming in, is that they think they're too young to make an impact. And that's the biggest lie ever. What I mean by that is that they're too junior to speak, or they're too junior to be confident, or they need to give themselves some years before XY, before they can do certain things. But that actually shows that you are kind of like being prepped, or you have an ability for leadership once you start like being confident as early as possible. Being assertive is not a bad thing. It's the best. If I knew I always say this, but if I knew now what I knew, you know what I mean. If you knew now what you knew then if you knew now. Or if I knew, you know what I mean. I know what you mean. If I knew then what I know now, that's what. Then exactly. I would definitely be way more assertive, because it's all about a lot of it is about perception as well. What's the perception that people have of you? So if you retrieve all the time, like when you're being spoken to, or when it's in a meeting, if you always do that, people think that you're not confident. People think that you don't know what you're speaking about. It's not about just your character and what you do. It's about how people perceive it. Perceive you, because that is probably not who you are. Exactly. And outside of those spaces, you're probably very, very chatty, very bubbly. They don't know that because you're always retrieved. So you're not really giving. Number one, you're not giving your authentic self. How if someone is authentically an introvert, then like myself, how does that work? To put yourself out there to be more assertive in that environment, if naturally you are just introverted. But I think even as an introverted person, maybe I'm more extrovert, so I can't really speak for the team introvert, but even if you're introvert, you're not silent though. So there's certain environments, maybe a smaller group, you'll be more inclined to share your opinion. So if that's the case, then just do what you're comfortable with as well. That's important. Don't do too much, because there's the other side where people just ask silly questions. Like when they say, be encouraged to ask questions. There's one girl, I'll never forget. There's one girl, she asked stupid questions each and every time. And for me, it was embarrassing. I feel like that's embarrassing for her personal brand. She was doing too much. Like, she was doing it for attention. You could tell. We could tell anyway. And then they'll get some of the, like, let's say the junior people will go back and be like, here we go again. Or when she starts talking, they're like, everyone would be doing that. And then I remember I had an end of year feedback, and my manager said, be like her. And I said, sorry? Why? Why?
No, that's exactly the question I asked. Yeah. I asked why? Because, even though she doesn't always ask the best questions, meaning that that she doesn't ask.
But her voice is being heard. Okay.
So that was the thing. But then if I do that, I'm not authentic. So if you do what an extrovert does as an introvert, you're not being authentic. So you do it in what you're comfortable with, you do that. So whether that's, let's say they ask you to present and you don't want to do it in front of like 10 million people, you do it more so in a smaller group, or you contribute in a smaller group, or maybe you're more of a creative, whatever it is that you feel comfortable with, do that
and do it well.
That's
it. Don't overexert yourself unless you're comfortable doing that.
Exactly.
And I guess that's also a way of building courage. The more you do it in those small settings, and even challenge yourself to do it in.
Exactly. But it's all got to come from you. You don't need to feel like so pressured that, if you're not ready to, like, for example, go to a CEO, I'm not ready to go to like a CEO board meeting and run it because I've never done it before. Yeah. So there's steps to it. You don't just kind of like jump in there, but you help yourself. You educate yourself on what you need to do. You speak to more senior people. You get tips from them. So you kind of like, don't
like a prepping.
You prep yourself. And I love the fact that you mentioned courage and confidence, because it's actually courage that produces confidence. So once you have the courage to go act and take the action, that's how you build your confidence, because the courage is the first step. The confidence is now a place that you've landed, and now you can be more confident, hence
and comfortable.
Exactly.
Excellent. All right, so we'll move on to our next question. Where is it? Right, so do you have any advice for women of colour who feel isolated in their workplaces, especially when they're often the only one in the room?
I think the first thing I'll say is like, find your tribe. I know people always say this, but this is so true. No, but your tribe doesn't have to look like you though. Your tribe doesn't always have to look like you. I can name some white girls who are like literally my sisters. And I know it's weird to say, but I've literally gone to their weddings. They've literally invited me to different countries. I worked with them. We weren't even like the best of friends where we like spent every weekend together. I don't like that. I'm not going to lie. I've got too many friends on the weekends to be seeing, to be spend it all the time. But
there's a level of understanding.
There is.
Built some form of relationship.
Yeah. And that's why relationships are just so key. You can't just go into the workspace and say, I'm only going to make friends with black people. It doesn't really work like that.
And I guess you can't look at yourself as the only one in the room, even if it does look that way. Because I think you kind of already put up a barrier, really, yourself.
Or limitation without realising it.
Yeah, realising it. So, yes, you might be the only one in the room because we're talking about maybe representation isn't necessarily there, but you're not the only one in the room because there are also other people and human beings in the space. So they are just, as cool to get to know. As it would be if it was someone of your race. So
absolutely.
I guess don't put a limitation on yourself as seeing yourself as the only one in the room. And
if it bothers you, it's going to bother you, obviously, being the only one. But then after some time as well, like, ask yourself what you can do to make a change. Because we complain so much, not always, but we tend to have comments about being the only person, not being the represented correctly and things like that. But once you see that as an issue,
what can you do?
What can you do to change that? That's the way
you're there.
Because you're a representation now. Like, if they had 0 people that look like you, you're now one. Thank God. I mean, that's not. It's better than nothing.
Starting point.
It's a starting point. But then from now on, like, what like, if there's certain things you've seen in the team, do you speak up about it? So to make sure that the next, for example, black female person that comes in the door has a better experience. For me, like, that's how I go about my business. I know for a fact, especially all the teams that I've left, I'm like, what legacy did I also leave?
Oh, wow.
And like, what change did I make that makes somebody else that looks like me have an easier time?
That's good. I think that's a good what's the word?
Perspective.
In mind. So what am I leaving behind? Wherever I am. So I am ultimately remembered, and it's easier for the next person who does look like me. to kind of fit in.
Make it easier. So whether that's, sometimes it's going to be just speaking out and saying maybe this should be changed, or if you have the opportunity to, for example, participate in interviews and things like that. Like very recently. So I don't have many black females in my industry right now. Forensic accounting, I'm still looking for them. Well, in the UK, there's not many at all. I mean, I found somebody in America, but again, America's so big. So I know that there's a lack of like black females. Yeah. I remember going to a talk at SOAS University, and like when I was done, one of the girls asked for contact on how to apply. You without you knowing, you start becoming like an ambassador to, because she saw me and I'm a female and she's also of an ethnic minority, or she's from another part majority. Sorry. Global majority. No, that's a much better term than ethnic minority. Yeah, because we're definitely not a minority. But because of that, then she was like inclined to apply, and I'm, without even noticing or without realizing, I represented the company, if that makes sense. So I represented someone she would work with. I was able to speak about my experience and stuff. So she was obviously impressed and asked me, "Oh, how would I be able to get a job?" Because if I represented myself like badly, she wouldn't have been coming to ask me for anything.
I work in secondary school, but and I'm head of enterprise. But recently, I've been trying to bring in more professionals in workplace into school, and I think that's very, very important. Earlier on, that they have an understanding that they can achieve, because others have gone before them and are achieving. So I think I don't know if you did, but I didn't have that in school, where you did have like professionals kind of come in and talk about their career journey and certain things that they did. So I think now we're in an age whereby there are a lot of children that either don't have aspirations, or they do have aspirations, but they don't know how to navigate those aspirations.
Yeah. Do you know what their aspirations are nowadays? Influence. Everyone wants to be influenced. Because that's what they see.
That is what they see.
That's it. But that's kids though. They're impressionable. The more they see people outside of the influencer world and Instagram and stuff, trust me, they will also aspire for higher. I'm not even surprised I'm an accountant, because one of the people I looked up to was one of my cousins, older cousins, and she was an accountant and she looked rich. I don't even know, but to me, she was rich. I said, I definitely want to do what she's doing. I want to handle the money because, she was driving and she had this, back in the day, everyone had like this Avirex jacket that was really expensive. So I used to be like, this girl's, I just want to be like her. So without even realizing, you can end up being. You do form impressions in your mind. Exactly. Exactly. And another thing as well, like I think community kind of initiatives, or like enterprises that, like even like, for example, you bringing in a working professional to come in, it's so impressionable. I kid you not, because in sixth form I interviewed for Lehman Brothers, that was an old investment bank, right? And I didn't even make it the full way. I think it was myself and one of my classmates. She made it, but I went into like maybe like phase 2 or round 2, and I think there was one left, and I failed in like the group interview session. But I learned so much from it, and I didn't take it as, oh my gosh, like I failed and I can't ever apply again. Like that gave me confidence, actually.
I think it is opportunities that school does bring in outside of the classroom. That do also, they have a major impact on where kids go in the future as well, and their confidence, even like public speaking and things like that.
Exactly. So that's all really important, because that company, and this, I just feel like this is not even a coincidence, but the Lehman Brothers, obviously they went bust in 2008, the financial crisis. Yeah, exactly. That same building, years later, I was walking to that building as an employee. Oh wow, that's not a coincidence.
Oh wow, that's amazing.
That's not a coincidence at all. It's because
ordained.
It's all ordained, but at the same time, there's obviously, you got to, God will help you, but you too help yourself. Believe in yourself a bit as well, and know that you can achieve it. As I said, when I looked out that window, I said I'm going to be there one day, and I was. So it's so, and again, these kind of school interventions were obviously really helpful for me. Helpful. Really, really helpful.
That's why the government needs to fund schools.
That's a story for another day.
Story for another
Yeah,
day.
but so just on the last thing I would say when it comes to maybe feeling alone and feeling like you're the only one and things like that, it's not to put pressure on yourself, but again, I'll go back to the work element, is doing work, like excellent work, because again, it's upsetting that you have to represent a
very big group.
A very big group of people, but then if you know this is an audition, then like do your very best, if that makes sense. Do put your best foot forward. Work hard on your own accord in terms of like be satisfied in like what you're doing. And don't always, when I said find your tribe, like find, if they're not even like, if there's no one that looks like you, I'm sure there's going to be someone who has something similar in interest to you. So make sure that you align yourself with that person. Again, mentorship can help a lot, because I have people in America who I've never met in my life. I kid you not, they like have my back. Like I don't want to even say too much.
Through work and networking.
Yeah, that's through networking at work. I just spoke to someone once or twice, and then you know, you kind of form a relationship with them, and they really like back me, and they're like completely the other side of the world, across the ocean, but they have such a vested interest in my progression now. So reaching out and create your community, even if it's not in the same office. Now virtually, there's no excuse, you know. So like try and reach out to people and form networks. So it's going to be hopefully someone that you connect with. There's people that you're not going to connect with, that's fine, like it's life, and it's going to be people that you do connect with. So just be open to exactly, and remember that being the only person makes you less forgettable. I say take advantage of it. It's either you're going to shrink or you're going to fly. So we want to fly. So yeah, if you're the only one that they can't forget your name, they can't forget who you are, then try your best, your very, very best. But obviously make sure that it's an environment that you're also comfortable with, I would say. So if you feel like being the only person is working to your advantage because of your environment, then don't be there.
Okay. So if it's working to your disadvantage.
If you see it's working to your disadvantage and like you're not respected, you're not being treated fairly and things like that, then feel free to absolutely
get out of there.
Yeah.
Well, Christabel, it has been lovely having a conversation with you.
Yes.
I do have one last exit question.
Okay.
One habit that keeps you grounded on tough days.
I would say I have two, or maybe two or three, but I'll be quick.
Okay. We did ask for one.
Yeah, no. I know. Okay, maybe I'll amalgamate this into one. Yeah, I think praying, absolutely, for me. There's sometimes I've gone into the room and I just had to pray, honestly, like, because sometimes it's just getting too much and I don't know what I'm doing, or like, this fear kind of thing like takes over me. So I just need to obviously brush up the shoulders and like pray, and then also remembering where I came from, remembering where I started from and the kind of person I've become over the years. I'm not just a product of the names on my CV. Like, I've literally built character. I'm such a better person because of, like what I've been through. So seeing where I've come from, God will not allow me to come here just so I can fail.
Yeah, He didn't bring you this far to leave you.
No, not at all.
What song was that, Mary?
I can't even remember.
I think it's,
But
I just can't give up now.
So you just got to remember where you're coming from and how important that is. I never imagined I would even be like come this far. Imagine what's in front of me. So why give up now? Just look back and just be like, it's too far to even go back. I can't go back. Like, I just have to keep going.
Keep pressing forward.
And if you need to pray in that, just to kind of keep yourself grounded again, to be like, God, you know my future. I might not know my future, but you know my future. Take my hand, and then you just kind of like cast your burdens onto Him, and then
let go, let God.
Yeah, basically.
I love that.
Yeah.
Hi guys, and that is
Thank
the
you for
end
having me.
of
It was so
episode
good.
1, our 2-part series. Thank you so much for tuning in, and I hope that you have been able to grab as much gems as you possibly can. This career journey, or just navigating our careers as women of the global majority, does have odds and obstacles and challenges that we are going to face. There's no doubt about it. But we can learn from others that have gone before us and make that road a lot more smooth sailing for ourselves. So if you are at the beginning of your career, do not be afraid to allow your voice to be heard in that boardroom. Do not be afraid of sussing the ground and ensuring that you have set yourself up for success and victory, because we are not failing out here, girl. We are making sure we are climbing that career ladder to achieve the goals we've set before ourselves, because we are more than capable of doing so. So like Christabel has said throughout the 2-part episode, you know, take those gems, take those nuggets that she has shared with us and use them in your career journey to defy those odds. We've learned about challenging the status quo. We've understood what the term speaking while female, what that means. You know, your voice matters. Your voice needs to be heard. You are needed in your space. So I hope you have enjoyed this episode. And on that note, if that has been the case for you, I am going to implore you to subscribe. Yes, press that bell button and subscribe to this YouTube or podcast, however you're listening to it, whether it's on Spotify or YouTube. Please subscribe, like and share, and be prepared for episode 2.